Jessica Chastain and all these prosthetics as Tammy Faye Baker. Oh man, the eyes of Tammy Faye. Long time coming talking about this film.
That's right. Yeah, it came out a few weeks back. At this point, so we're getting to it a little late, but definitely could not be skipped, as this has been earmarked as something in the awards mix, namely for Jessica Chastain's performance as Tammy Faye Baker, as you said. And I think probably most convincingly of all would be the makeup and hairstyling team for this movie are in the mix for that Oscar, because there's a lot of makeup and there's a lot of hairstyling, which, as the Tammy Faye story goes, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I have to say, I did not know much about Tammy Faye Baker or Jim Baker prior to this, so I looked them up. Very, very flattering portrayals of these two by Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
They're not good, not attractive people. But anyways, Michael Showalter was the director for this, and you probably know him from Wet Hot American Summer. But I think probably the movie that is most relevant to this is Perks of a sorry, I'm getting this confused. Wet Hot American Summer, but then also
The Big Sick.
The Big Sick. Thank you. I was thinking about the Dear Evan Hansen movie. I was going to say.
No, we don't. We're not going. We're not going.
Yeah, we're not talking about that this week. Maybe down the line. Who knows? Probably not. But
no, we're not going there.
But I think when you know that he's directing this, you're expecting some drama with some humor. This is straight drama, and gotta be honest, I found myself pretty bored throughout this movie. I was not totally sucked in by it. I thought some of the performances were pretty good, but overall, I had pretty high expectations for this, and I felt like we got a pretty middling movie overall. How did you feel about just your overall takeaways?
Yeah, as a movie, it's more standard biopic fare than I was expecting, and because it's a more traditional biopic, it does not commit to a lot of different lanes nor tones that it could have. And there was definitely a more interesting, more artful movie in this story if someone had sought to make it. You know, I kind of had the feeling early on when we had that flashback scene first as Tammy Faye as a child, but even like the scene where she meets Jim at college, which I thought Chastain was convincing as like a young college student, to be honest. But all those scenes setting up this backstory, the origins of the Bakers, you know, it's like just unnecessary exposition. I think I would have loved if this had picked up in media res at their peak or at their decline. You know, a better script, I think, could have served the story in a more interesting way. And I still enjoyed the film because I wasn't super familiar with the details of this story. So just seeing it unfold was interesting to me. Like, it's kind of confusing, I guess, to keep all these televangelists of that time straight. You know, we see all of them show up, right? Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, the Bakers, all these really important figures from the 70s and 80s mainly. And I guess familiar in a certain sense because thematically we kind of nod to this era in Mrs. America last year, FX on Hulu, in terms of the Republican Party's capitulation to the Christian right and the, you know, bastardization of evangelicalism. And I think the Bakers were Pentecostal, but, you know, all these Christian right-leaning folks and how the politics got in on that, right? So a lot of like thematic things that made sense to me, but yeah, just as a biopic, it's I guess it's also hard to invest in because at the end of the day, these people, as well as the other televangelists that are on the periphery, they're all frauds. Like they're all bad people,
just that despicable people,
bad goals, and a lot of them were really hateful people as well. And even if Tammy Faye had qualities that are admirable, and this has been explored in past documentaries about her, she was a true ally to the LGBTQ people, especially in her later years. That is true. But overall, they're not exactly people that you root for because of these kind of overtly gross public sins. So
yeah,
it's hard to invest in anything but watching the demise, you know?
Yeah, not to get like too up on my high horse about things, but I feel like it definitely highlights how certain recent political figures have been able to come to power, even amidst tons of controversy, because it's almost like uh, they're just like us. These really powerful people do these really awful things, and they can ask for forgiveness, and they can still be good people. And we don't need to say we're sorry to anyone but God. That sort of thing. Like it's
Right.
really just I don't know, just really like gross to really sit with these people, and it's interesting too because I feel like though it focused on Tammy Faye a lot, the person I was much more interested in was the stuff with Jim Baker and the stuff going on with him. I mean, total con man, pretty much portrayed that way by Garfield right from the beginning. I thought Garfield was pretty good in this role, um, but they allude to so much about him, and then when it kind of comes out that he raped Jessica Hahn, and
Yes, a ministry worker or something
yeah,
like that.
him and another person sexually assaulted her, and then all this other stuff comes out. Relationships with men and all this stuff. It's just kind of like put out there. Even like
Yeah.
the confrontation between him and Tammy Faye. It's like, yeah, this is gonna come out, and she's like, oh, we're ruined, and then they yell at each other, and then they make up, and it's just very like anticlimactic to me. And I was like, I
Yada
want to just
yada.
like yeah, exactly. I was like, I want to see these people get fucking fried, bro. Like, I don't know. That's what I was looking for with it. Probably was just more my political leanings, but
Yeah, well,
um,
and that's again the other thing too is they don't actually go that far with like Jim Baker and all these other people's leanings towards the right politically. Like they don't actually go that far, right? And like Tammy Faye's good qualities in terms of her greater tolerance, especially compared to her peers here, is also barely in the movie. So it's
yeah,
just there's all these avenues that they just don't go down. And I would have loved if maybe their lavish life when everything's going good, the grift is flowing. That could have been more fun to be a part of, right? It's
totally.
actually not that cool, even though it's quite clear that they're in these lavish homes and they're spending all this money. But like that also isn't that cool either, in terms of how the movie is portraying. So this is a lot
Yeah,
of like lanes that are just not followed up on. And if you had picked one or two of these with a different script, I think it would have been a more compelling story.
yeah, and I think that does work. That choice does work a little bit more telling the Tammy Faye story because obviously I think they were trying to portray how uh, the men in these relationships were given the ability to go out and do a lot more of the things that they wanted and a lot more of the despicable acts, and the women were expected to not. I mean, you see even in the movie when Tammy Faye has a pseudo affair on Jim, the way that he responds and like kind of puts her back in his place, controlling her access to power and wealth. And if you were following the Jim Baker story, I imagine that would have been a lot more fun because you would have seen him out there, exploiting people, men, women, boys, in every which way. And now that would that have been fun to watch? Would have been horrible, but it would have been at least more
Right.
exciting than what we got.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just overall, I feel like it just fell flat in so many ways, and kind of stinks because I feel like Chastain is such a good actress, but
Mhm.
just hasn't been having good roles recently. Really, Molly's Game might have been the best role she's had in the last 5 years.
So I did like Chastain as Tammy Faye, even if it's a lot of I guess like precocious energy and like charisma. Like it's not, but she's so committed to it, and I
Yeah,
do
she's
find it
great.
quite convincing. And it would have been even better again because like you can just see it. You could see it if maybe Tammy Faye had more things to do, right? Even like her reliance on like on pills once things start to
Yeah,
go south, barely shown,
I
barely like
know.
we've seen that done in really good ways before, right? You know, and
Mhm.
I'm not saying we need to have her crawling on on the floor like DiCaprio on Quaaludes. I'm not saying we needed that, but like it could have been done differently, or at least in a more engaging way. You know, I mean, fuck. You had Heritage USA, one of the biggest theme parks in the history of the country, and it's not even in the fucking movie. Like that would have been cool, even for a quick
Yeah,
sight gag. You know, like
I know. So I just want to read this off to you real quick. I'm on her Wikipedia roles page.
Mm.
So we have The Martian in
This
2015.
is Chastain.
Chastain, yes. We have The Martian in 2015. 2016, The Huntsman, Winter's War.
Hmm.
You see that?
I have not. I've seen the original Snow White, not the sequel.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't really even heard much about that
It's
one.
not good from what I know.
The Zookeeper's Wife, Molly's Game,
Hmm.
Woman Walks Ahead, This Changes Everything, Dark Phoenix, It Chapter 2, Ava. Like this is her run up until The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I guess she was in The Forgiven earlier this year as
Let's
well.
also note Scenes from a Marriage on HBO.
Yes, so this is just her filmography, not her TVography or TV roles. I mean, you go back from The Martian, you got Interstellar,
Mhm.
Most Violent Year,
Yeah,
Zero Dark 30. I mean, she
yeah,
was killing it.
that was
It's
prime time. Yeah.
yeah, been a bit of a lull. I think Tammy Faye and probably Molly's Game are the two roles that stand out there. Molly's Game I like a little bit more than most people, but
So do I.
disappointing. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Just because I mean Chastain kind of pulling up right as a 2010 show up and like, oh, this is a really exciting female presence.
Yep.
That's awesome. And like you said, there's a good 4 or 5 year run in there, and it kind of peters out. And we know she's a really good actress. You hope the roles continue to be there as someone who's now, how old is she? Like 40? Like she's 44. So like how it is with women in Hollywood. Unfortunately, I'd hope that she continues to get good parts.
Yep.
Um, she does have this movie that she only got cast in recently. It's called The Good Nurse. It's about a serial killer who murdered as many as 300 patients over his 16-year career as a nurse. And Chastain plays the nurse that I guess assists in the capture of the serial killer, something like that. The serial killer is played by Eddie Redmayne. So that's a movie that could be good. That could be a really good role. We'll see about that. But
Definitely.
I like Chastain, and
Me too.
Dark
And
Phoenix and Ava in particular is quite and Huntress and Winter's War. There's been some stinkers lately, and this is definitely a closer return to her form,
mm,
past form, but we're not there yet. So hopefully it continues the reclamation.
yeah, I gotta say, Garfield, someone we've been high on. I thought he was pretty good as well. Both of them played pretty convincing, like young people in this movie. I don't know if I would say I would buy them to be teenagers, but when they're in like the seminary school or the preaching school or whatever it is, it's like, oh, they look younger. They look like they're in their 20s right here. So I, especially on the same weekend that Dear Evan Hansen comes out and is getting, lambasted for Ben Platt looking like he's 45 in some of the scenes. Um, could have done worse. So Tammy Faye, I think it's worth checking out because I do think, like you said, I think like costume design, makeup design, things like that will probably get some award recognition, but overall, a bit disappointing.